Welcome to Page to Screen, the podcast where Nikki and Christina discuss books that were turned into movies and films that were adapted from books. As always, we do remind you that spoilers lay ahead. Now, we invite you to decide with us the age-old question, which is better, the book or the movie?
Hey everybody, welcome back to Page to Screen. It's me, Nikki, and joining us as always is the best co-host in the world, Christina. How are you doing today?
Well, now I feel quite confident. Thank you.
Oh, anytime. I love doing this with you.
No, me too. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm good. I'm just ready to get into this. I'm ready.
I'm ready. We've got some tea to spill. We've got some things to dissect, and it was, tasty.
Num num num. So, for those of you just joining us this week, we are talking about Terry McMillan's Waiting to Exhale, the book and the movie. And neither one of us had either read the book or seen the movie. So we went into this blind, and I was ready. I didn't talk to anybody who had read the book.
Right.
I imagine there are people I know who've probably seen the movie. It's been around since 1995. It's kind of hard not to, or at least heard about the movie, But I, honest to goodness, don't know anyone who read the book.
Yeah, I'm certain that I know people that have watched the movie, but I don't know anyone who has read the book specifically. I feel like my aunt maybe did. She had the cassette and would sing it all the time in the car with me inside that car. But yeah, I don't know of anyone who read the book, which is a shame. I'll say that right off the bat. I greatly enjoyed it.
Oh, same. See, this is why I was so excited. I have been waiting and dying to talk about this because I really liked this book. I really liked it.
Yeah. It's long too. It was nice because the last one that we read, I think it might actually be the longest book we've read because it's something like 400 something pages.
Yeah.
But it goes by very fast.
You get really involved in these characters' lives, and in 2020, we spent a lot of time with men, in groups of men. And It felt so good to be surrounded by a group of women, and not just any women, but women who are so driven in their career fields.
Yes.
It was such a positive, there was I don't want to say the whole thing's positive. There are some negatives, but...
Oh, yeah. We'll get to those,
yeah, too. But there is a very positive spin on being 30 and wanting a good career.
Yeah, and, just to give some basis, the book is split between 4 30-something women, and they're all handling various changes in their life. And it's all set primarily in Arizona. And the cool thing is that it's a group of Black women. So it's a different perspective than had been seen to date in 1992. And even now, even up to date, this one still stands out. So it's nice because the kind of issues that they're dealing with are things that I can relate to, and it's also something that is representative of women that we don't see that often in books and in film.
Oh yeah, I would even go as far to say that even by today's standards,
yeah,
we're still not getting a lot of representation for not just this, not just this age group, but of women of color in general.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to see that this was I feel like it was very groundbreaking at the time. It was on the New York Times bestseller list. And, for those of you who don't know Terry McMillan, Waiting to Exhale, but you probably also know that she wrote How Scylla Got Her Groove Back, which is another Angela Bassett film.
And another book and film that I haven't seen, and now I really, really, really want to read it and watch it.
Same, because I want to know if because the characters are just really strong. They are they have a good definition, whereas a lot of books where it's a group of women, they all seem to be kind of the same almost, it's kind of flat. I would even say that she gives them enough definition where it's almost like, I'm going to hate myself for saying this. I kept thinking like the outline is kind of like Little Women.
See, I would disagree to that to a certain extent, because I feel like in a lot of movies and books where there is a group of women, they kind of end up being sort of like the Spice Girls. Like, this is the smart one. This is the sweet one. This is the one that wants to marry a husband. Whereas these women, they have overlapping wants and desires. Some of them are more business driven, and yet they all have very complicated issues. They have complicated wants and desires, complicated choices. Yeah. And I think it's a little bit more dynamic than some other groups of women that we've seen in media.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do like that they sum it up at one point in the book where it's like, what do we all have in common? Because you read through these women's lives and they are so vastly different that it's almost like, how would you get all these women in one space at one time? You know what I mean? Right. And it just worked so well. And you get a sense of so many different backgrounds all at once. Mm-hmm. And I really loved that.
Yeah, same.
So the four main women that we spend most of our time, all of our time, I shouldn't say most, all of it, are Savannah Jackson, Bernadine Harris, Robin Stokes, and Gloria Matthews.
I want to ask right off the bat, did you have a favorite?
Oh my God, I knew you were going to ask me that because I was going to ask you that. I have a mix. Mix. Honestly, I loved Savannah because she was so driven. She leaves her job to go to Arizona because she knows what she wants. She wants to be a producer in TV. And that to me was like, oh my God, I totally understand that, because right now, for anyone who doesn't know, I am currently unemployed. So now I'm at a Savannah situation where it's like, I could go and do something else. So I really related to that, but I also really love Gloria because the fundamental values that she's trying to teach her son, and how she's able to, she has an understanding of like the world around her a little bit, and she's not as fanciful as the other three. She's a little bit more grounded.
My favorite to start with was Savannah, and one of the reasons why was she comes off right, like, immediately. She's very irreverent, and she has a potty mouth, and I could relate to that so fucking much.
Okay, Savannah.
But as I kept reading, I did really like Gloria. Gloria, I knew her. And I don't even have the same problems as her. I mean, we have completely different lives, but it's just like her little nuanced insecurities and overthinking I could understand. And then I ended up really liking Bernadine.
Bernadine is a boss. Let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah, that means that we both have the same least liked character.
Yeah. Robin.
Oh boy, Robin.
So, I can't, oh my goodness. Robin made me the angriest in a lot of her choices throughout the entire book. And I was just like, I wanted to pull a Savannah, because Savannah, the other thing that I really love about Savannah, throughout the entire book, her and Gloria are basically the voices of reason. Yes, but on like kind of like almost opposite ends, where Gloria will go too hard to be really good, and Savannah's on that edge between like good and girl, do what's best for you. Because Savannah won't tell Bernadine not to do some of the stuff that she should be telling Bernadine not to do. But she has no problem telling Robin how stupid she is.
Well, one of them is chaotic good and the other one is lawful good.
Yes.
So they want the best for their friends. They want them to do the right things, but one of them is kind of in the gray area and one of them is probably a little bit too extreme.
Yeah. It was just, oh my goodness. That's like, so where do we begin with this? So yeah, Savannah.
I think, yeah, Savannah. She's the opener to the book.
Yeah.
And she decides to move from Colorado to Arizona. And as someone who has spent a lot of time in Arizona and also lived in Colorado, I was kind of like, I'm sorry, you're doing what?
Oh yeah, this is literally a book for you. You've been there, done that.
And I mean, I did move from Colorado back to Florida, so I guess just state-wise, one of them's clearly better than the other. But yeah, she moves from Colorado to Arizona. Partially, yes, because she's accepting a different job. Also because she feels that she is let down by the men in Colorado. So she's hoping for a fresh start with some new faces.
Yeah.
And she also has a lot of friends that are in Arizona. And of course, it's a little melodramatic. There is some symbolism over the fact that they're living in Phoenix, Arizona. Mm. But it is what it is.
Whatever. I really liked Savannah's car ride to Phoenix.
Yeah. With the Kenny G album.
Yes, and Lionel.
Yeah.
My God, Lionel.
Lionel.
I would never, I can say this honestly, 100%. I would never in a million years drive cross country with a man I've only met once at a New Year's Eve party and he was wearing a bolo tie and cowboy boots.
I know someone who is on this podcast who is not me owns a bolo tie, so don't be too judgy.
Listen, I own 2 bolo ties, thank you. But I know me. And I know polo ties are worn by crazy people.
Hey, but you can rock yours.
I do.
So I'll give you that. Yeah.
Mine does say I'm a sheriff, so suck it, everybody.
No, I agree though. That was nuts. I mean, think about just being in a car ride. I know people who I've gone along with a lot, and after an hour in the car, I'm like, I want to murder you.
Same. Like Jesse and I have to listen to podcasts mostly about crime because you can bust out like 15 of them in like, you know, 2 hours and it doesn't feel like any time has passed at all. Or we have to listen to like old school 90s music that we both know the words to. Otherwise, because we can't, those are the only 2 things we'll compromise on.
See, my husband Carlos and I, we get along in the car, but I think probably the only problem we have is that sometimes I want to fall asleep and he's like, don't you dare. Yeah.
That's why you got to listen to those 90s songs because if you know all the words and you sing along, it keeps you up longer.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. That's a road trip tip from me to you.
So yes, so Savannah, she makes the car ride to Arizona.
Yeah. And Savannah's already been friends with Bernadine before she moved. And I think that's where we pick up again is with Bernadine hearing from her husband that he is leaving her. And not just like, it's not even like they were arguing or anything. She's downstairs making coffee. They've been married for 11 years and he just decides to blurt out, I'm going to leave you for my bookkeeper who happens to be a blonde white woman.
Yeah, and there's an extra bitterness because she helped him start up this company. She has a degree. She is, well educated. She's smart. She initially had a lot of drive to open a catering business.
Yeah, she wanted to open up a catering business. And she put that
aside to be a trophy wife, holed up in the mountains away from everybody, just raising kids. And it's got like this double burn of not only, actually triple, he's leaving her, he's been cheating on her, it's with a white girl, and he kind of made her quit being who she was to a certain extent. So she has nothing aside from her marriage.
Yeah, she She has become the relationship and nothing more.
Right. Right.
Oh, and then on top of all that, the white woman that he's leaving her for is younger than her, too.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. They mention that she's like in her 20s. And
right.
I could not, like, oh, poor Bernadine. That
I know.
scene with her when she goes upstairs and she locks herself in the room, and then she takes the Xanax, and then she's like, she wakes up and she's at the gas station trying to buy a pack of cigarettes, was so alarming and so depressing.
It really was. I mean, that's what, chapter 2? It's devastating.
Yeah.
It's super
hits hard.
devastating. It does. And so throughout the book, she clearly has, she's using pills to help curb her anxieties, but she's also abusing them to a certain extent too.
Yeah.
And it's really sad because she's kind of walking that line between using them when she needs to and possibly abusing them, which is really sad. And her just like devastation and depression, you feel it so deep because then afterwards she drops her kids off at her mom's place and then just wants to be alone. So she lies to everybody saying that she's basically going on this little staycation like away, but she actually just stays at her house and she just doesn't wash. She doesn't brush her teeth. She's just...
Yeah, she's just wallowing in...
Yeah.
She's letting the depression take over at that point. And it's...
Yeah, and then...
so sad.
It's very sad. And then at one point that I love, she's like, I'm not going to let him do this to me. So then she makes herself like this nice breakfast. She cleans up. She takes a shower. And I just felt that too.
Yeah.
That was such a good moment.
That's where I was at. Because I don't have a job. I did have a moment. I don't, no ahs. I've had a, come to Jesus moment or whatever,
Yeah.
But it was...
I'm sending you hugs through the internet.
Thank you. It was finding out about not having a job was difficult. Like, I'm not saying it compares to having your husband leave you for another woman, but I knew exactly that feeling.
Yeah.
When it's like you have all this energy, but you can't make your body do anything because you're so in your head about everything. And then one day it all just clicks and you're like, I got to put on some real pants. Yeah. Like, I just have to make the effort once and it'll click. And so I was really rooting for her, especially after she set fire to her husband's car.
God, that moment is so good. And I loved it. And then the best part is because she collects all of his stuff and puts it in the car and sets it on fire, which was the only thing I knew about the story, just because that scene with Angela Bassett is just so memorable.
Well, at the end of the last podcast, you mentioned it, and I was like, oh my God, what? And then I was like, oh my God, I hope it's for revenge. And then I was like, yes, it's for revenge. And I've never been happier. I can name thousands of times where I wanted to set fire to somebody's stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, have you ever been just that angry where you're like, get out of my way or I'll set fire to it? Her setting fire to it was so cathartic for me. Just reading it, I was like, yes.
It really was. And my favorite part, though, is that she lights it on fire. She lights a cigarette and she doesn't even watch it burn all the way. She just walks away. And then later, the firefighters are called by her neighbor and they show up and they knock on the door and she just kind of like lazily answers it. And he's like, ma'am, did you start this fire? Yeah. And then he says something like, oh, well, you're not allowed to unless you're burning trash. And she goes, it is trash. Yeah. Oh, so good.
Well, and then also when he's like, this is going to really drive up your insurance. And she's like, whatever. And just like closes the door. I was like, oh, that's when you knew that she was the boss. Like,
yeah, she
knew exactly what she was doing.
Oh, yeah.
I was just like, I was in it. I was like, yes, burn it all. And the best part is, because that's the other thing, is that he buys her that stupid car because it's a status symbol. And he's trying to show everybody else in Arizona that, yes, because the whole thing is like, she makes a point to say all the time that he's trying to pass as white.
I know.
So it's like buying her this really fancy sports car and trying to pass as everyone else in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and that part is really sad too because yeah, his goal is basically to be as white as possible. So he even tells her not to tan because she's going to get too dark.
Yeah.
And then she compares him to, of all people, and this is what,
Oh.
1992.
Yeah.
She compares him to Cliff Huxtable and Donald Trump, that those are clearly like who he wanted to be. And as we know now,
Yeah.
that has even more of a subtext than maybe they even knew about at that point.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Every time I see, that's the weird thing about this podcast is we're reading a lot of books now that were big in the 90s, and you're getting a lot of references to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It's just like you see the name, and I don't know about you, but every time I see the name, I go, ooh.
Yeah, same.
Like, ooh, drama. But what's interesting about Bernadine is that we all find out everything that happens to her, especially the drive to the Circle K to pick up her cigarettes when she's on all those pills, from the hairstylist at Gloria's hair salon.
Yes.
And
which is where Gloria and her daughter go to. I mean, I'm sorry, Bernadine.
Yeah,
and her daughter go to.
Well, it's where everybody goes. Apparently,
right.
They say that Gloria's hair salon is the best in town. She has that girl who does the
what, weaves?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was. Yeah, and she ends up leaving at some point. She has these other two stylists. Everyone goes there. Everyone knows everybody's gossip. And you really get
I want to go there.
I want to go so bad. I want Gloria to do my hair. It's... I can't say enough good things about Gloria, but I will say that the thing that upsets me the most about Gloria is that she is a good character, but a majority of the time they whittle her down to what she looks like versus who she is.
Yes, there is a theme in this book, and it's one of my problems with it, is that there is a lot of kind of fat shaming.
Yes.
It's there with Gloria. It's also there, and we'll get more to him, but the Michael character who dates Robin.
Listen, that's the part that really upset me.
I know. And Gloria, I think she's described as being, what, like a size 20, right?
She's, no, under 20, because they talk about the nun who keeps dyeing her hair bright red as a size 20, and Gloria makes a point to be like, well, if I ever get like sister whatever her name is, then we'll know it's real bad or something like that.
Okay, that's probably how the size 20 got in my head, but she's bigger, especially when compared to the other three, but I don't think she's like morbidly obese. I think she's probably just heavier.
Yeah. That's one of the things when we start talking about the movie that I liked that they kind of changed.
Agree.
Because we both love Gloria as a character. Like she really has a lot of heart. She does. She got pregnant real young and had her son, Tariq, and she's raising him as a single mom. Like, and at the same time, she finds out that she finds out that the father of her child is gay.
Yeah, they got together when they were in college. Yeah, and he was like the star guy, and it sounds like the last time she actually, this is what I took it from. She has sex with him. She gets accidentally pregnant, and I don't think she sleeps with anybody else except for him.
Yeah, that's the way it came across.
Yeah, when he like shows up every now and then, and it seems like he doesn't even really, he's not into it. It's more of like a pity fuck kind of thing, which is even more depressing. And then he shows up because he wants to see his son, but his son doesn't want anything to do with him because, as he says it, he's not my father, he's my daddy. And then she kind of is leaning into it, and he goes, look, I gotta tell you the truth. I thought I was bisexual all these years. I'm gay.
Yeah. Speaking of that, he's not my father, he's my daddy situation, this book has so many good one-liners that I could not stop writing things down. My favorite is, there's a big difference between being thirsty and being dehydrated.
Yes!
I read read it, went, oh, okay, like took a photo of it, then wrote it down in my notes. I was like, yes, that
Nikki.
100% that one line. That's all anyone needs to know about this book. Buy the book, read the book. That line alone.
Nikki, I'm looking at my notes right now. My first note is Phoenix, Arizona, really? And then the second one is there's a difference between being thirsty and dehydrated.
It was.
That's a Mae West. That's a Mae West type line.
Yes, it is. It is a classic. And honestly, I want it on throw pillows.
I know.
I want it on a sweatshirt. I need it on one of those, like, you know, those live, laugh, love signs that people put in their houses. I want that in my house.
Yes.
A constant reminder to everybody. Like, it is, honestly, that's like the overall theme for the whole book.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so glad you like that one too.
I did. And here's the thing about the book is that there is definitely a type of soap opera-y kind of vibe to just how juicy the drama gets between these women and the guys that they end up either sexually or romantically or both involved with.
Yeah.
But the writing is still really good. The writing is really good. And there's still this like social commentary to all of it between gender and race. Like it's still a very intelligent book.
Yeah.
And I appreciated it a lot.
Yeah. No, same. It's definitely, it is true. There's a lot that happens where you're reading it and you're like, oh God, really? And I feel like there's going to be like a commercial break and then I'm going to come back and see what happens next. But it was always far-fetched, but it was still kind of grounded in so much reality.
Yes.
That I was just like, I buy it. I hook, line, and sinker, you know? I'll take the whole thing. And that includes, you know, the stuff with Robin.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Robin... In my notes, I wrote, I cannot stand you, girl.
It's frustrating because Robin is a lot like Savannah.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where if it wasn't very clear at the beginning of a chapter, like sometimes I'd actually start to think it was a Savannah chapter, but then she would do something really stupid. I'm like, oh, wait, no, this is a Robin chapter because she is also a professional woman.
Yeah.
And she makes bad decisions when it comes to men, but her decisions are like real bad.
Yeah, she's the youngest of all the women too. But when it comes to making a decision, every time she started to do something, I was literally like Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost. I was like, you in danger, girl. Like, just stop. Just the whole time, every chapter, it was like, are you colorblind? Can you not see all these red flags? Because I'm reading them and I can see them. Like, just take a second to breathe. That's all she had to do was just take a second and look around at the women around her. Though the women around her are they're older than her. They're thriving and surviving without a man. But Robin seems to think that the only way to be fulfilled in her life fully is to have a man and a baby. And I understand she's going through a situation with her family. Her dad has Alzheimer's and, you know, having had, you know, my family members who have gone through and since passed, I get that. I understand the frustration that it can bring about, but it's not an excuse for some of the actions that she did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And she's got a problem with guys where she wants like a hot body.
Yeah.
And she keeps falling for these guys that might be attractive, but they do nothing. Like they are using her. They use her for money. They use her for just sex whenever they want it. And she's just completely distracted by just their looks that she just allows them to do it. And there's this guy named Russell who keeps showing up, and she keeps getting with him and breaking up with him, and every single time it gets worse and worse. And then he's married and
Well,
she's sleeping with him even though he's married.
Yeah, well, it starts off that she's with him and his girlfriend keeps calling her. So you know that Russell has a girlfriend and she really wants to marry Russell. Then Russell leaves and comes back and you find out, oh, Russell now has a woman who's pregnant that he's living with. Then it's Russell goes away, comes back, you find out Russell's married to the woman who has the baby. And it's like, he's never, every time he comes back, he's 10 times worse than the first time we meet him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. I hate Russell. Oh, I really hated Russell.
There was one part that I thought was super interesting because you get little bits of her personality. So, like, she is obsessed with signs and thinking that those somehow are driving her to do the things that she does. But then there's a part, and I want to say it's the Michael chapter, where I'm pretty sure it is. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Where they're doing the first date questions and they're just like asking each other stuff. And he asks her what her favorite movies are. And she says Body Heat, Raging Bull, and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
I thought that was so telling of her as a character because all of that is toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Girl.
Yeah, no. Honestly, when I love that part. I do. She's, oh my God, it's just, she's so problematic. I'm trying. When she talks about her job, mm-hmm. and when she's with her family, you're really rooting for her. It's when she's by herself that you're kind of just like, how can you be doing this? This stuff with Russell, and everyone hates Russell. She just needed to stop with him. But it was the fat shaming that she constantly did that really made it hard for me to want to like her. Like, you would have these moments where she's doing all this fat shaming stuff, and then she's talking to her mom about how bad her dad is, and you're like, oh God, I really want to just like give you a hug, but also, man, the things that you are saying in your head about other people.
Yeah, and with Michael, they have sex and she's not quite into it. He seems good on paper. He's a nice guy. They kind of click, and he's a good dude, and she's not into his body type, okay? But, and I don't want to be like graphic here or anything, but they have sex, and then she's like, well, I'm tired of guys just basically, getting what they want with sex with me, so I'm going to get what I want. So then she has sex with him again in order basically for her to climax, and she does. And he is listening to her and what she wants and how she likes things. So later on, she kind of acts as if like the reason why they don't work is because of like sexually they don't work, but it's like, well, you guys did.
Yeah.
He listened to you and he listened to what you wanted and he gave that to you. So don't you think that perhaps if you just communicate a little bit more, you can be a thing,
It's very much like teenagers today and instant gratification. She didn't want to work at a relationship. She just wanted it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The stuff with Michael, especially when she's saying he looks good on paper, and when they're having their conversation and they're talking about like, oh, Michael has a boat and he likes to, go scuba diving and all this stuff. It kind of felt like she was more attracted to what he had and what he did versus him as an actual individual, because she wrote him off the minute she really saw him in her apartment, where she was like, oh, he don't look as hot as I'm used to. And I think she got that into her head and just rode with that with him, even though they would have worked. They would have worked.
I know. And it's so sad because, and I hate the nice guy trope. It's all the nice guys that I've known in my life were creeps, and they were just doing the wear down technique. Like, I don't like that idea, but he's just a nice guy.
He was. And he wanted nothing from her. He really wanted nothing from her.
He wanted to give her whatever she wanted. And it's more than just he liked her because she was pretty, because they were also like working in the same field. So he knew her to be a professional, driven, intelligent woman.
I feel like if they had stayed together, he would have helped her, like wanted her to like succeed in her business, like in all of her business ventures. He would have helped her and her mom, you know, both monetarily and, you know, supportively during the whole situation with her dad. He would have been there. That's the whole thing. Wow. And you find that out later.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's like, the whole time he's like, I will marry you. And it's like, on the one hand, it's like, oh, okay, you just saying it like that. Okay, whatever. But at the same time, I believe everything he was about. He's the only guy, I feel like, in the entire book, with the exception of one other, where I was like, he's just legit.
Yeah, and can I do the spoiler alert with what happens with Robin? Okay,
yes, you can. Please do, because I don't watch.
Robin, okay. So in the book and the movie, they do something that I really clap my hands. I am congratulating this, is that they make it a point to talk about what's it called when you stop the babies?
Contraception.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. What's it called when you don't want... What's the thing that you do when you don't want a baby? No, they do...
No, they
for the listeners, they talk a lot about safe sex. There you go, Christina.
Yeah, safe sex,
you could just say that.
I forgot. Listen, I'm smart, but sometimes I forget my words. So
okay, I'm gonna start calling you Robin.
No, they do the thing where they stop the babies. So they're using like diaphragms and condoms and stuff, which I think is really cool, because in a lot of movies, they're just clearly like raw dogging it. I mean, I don't know how many babies James Bond has across like the globe, but James Bond definitely has a lot. So she ends up getting back with Russell, and she gets pregnant. So she decides that even though she's pregnant, she's not going to tell Russell until after she can no longer get an abortion. That way he can't talk her into it. And she doesn't want him in her life, which I call bullshit on, because of the fact that they are all so conscious of contraceptives. Yeah. So clearly I think she wanted to get pregnant. That's kind of reading into it, but I think she wanted to get pregnant. And then it ends with Michael basically on her side. He's like, I don't even care that it's his baby, but I'm going to help you out. And she makes a comment like, yeah, but he knows that I don't love him.
That upset. See, that's, oh God, Robin. No, I 100% agree. I think because she makes I believe she makes a comment when she's with Michael where she was like, we would have ugly kids or something. Or she mentions at some point in the book not wanting to have ugly kids. And I think I agree. I think it was purposeful with Russell, because she thought that because Russell was so good looking and she's an attractive female, that this would be their really attractive baby.
Yeah.
And it's
upsetting.
It's very upsetting. And to know that you have someone like Michael who no matter what you do loves you. For some reason, he really still cares for her after everything that she has done. And she gets weirdly possessive over him throughout the book.
Yeah,
like,
she is.
She strings him along. That's the real crux of it, is that he knows that she is going to see other people. Mm-hmm. But she makes a point to be like super jealous about him being with anybody else. You can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You gotta pick one.
I feel like we have to move off of Robin and talk about someone we like, because it's just gonna make us angry.
Oh yeah, it's making us real mad now. So, all four women, their basic thing is like, as of this point, none of them have a man.
Nobody.
And that's the real like center point in all of their lives. But we branch out from all of that and we find out some weird stuff about Bernadine's husband, who I wrote down was, what did I write down here? I said, husband is a sneaky, sneaky dickhole. And that's the best way to describe it. He's awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
He's the worst.
I think he is what Liz Gilbert wanted her husband to be like in Eat, Pray, Love.
Oh my God.
Tell me where the lie is in that one. Come on.
Yeah, he's the stuff that I didn't like was that clearly he had been planning for the divorce for a long time.
Yeah.
So he moves around his money. So he's basically giving a bunch of his money to a friend of his, knowing that that friend's going to pay him back once the divorce is done. He has hidden franchises, hidden wineries. So she doesn't even understand how much money they actually have. And then he empties their joint bank accounts so that when she's talking to her divorce lawyers, she thinks that they have nothing.
Yeah. It's a mess. He made me so mad that my skin was like crawling because it's how I just can't wrap my head around how someone can months in advance start this process and still go home every night and be a parent to your two kids and still be a loving husband.
Yeah.
And then afterwards have the audacity to get mad when she does a $1 yard sale and sells all your crap, including your vintage car. Another boss move. Like,
I loved that because she sells so she takes the stuff that she didn't burn. She takes and
the leftovers.
She takes each item and she sells it as an estate sale, and everything is $1. And then once she gets all the cash at the end, because she sells everything. I mean, she's selling stuff like suits that are probably worth $2,000 for $1 each.
All that vintage wine.
Yeah. And, can we get our hands on it, please?
I have $1. I have a lot of dollars.
And then she takes the cash and she splits it between the two kids. So it wasn't about the money for her. It was just about like expunging him from her life. And
then later on, he even gets sneakier.
Yeah.
Because he gets custody of the kids on the weekends, and during one of his trips with the kids, he marries that woman. And the kids, he doesn't even tell his kids that it's happening until the day of.
I know.
And it was just so frustrating to me. There's a lot with what happens to Bernadine that frustrates me. Like, the stuff with her husband, the stuff with her doctor bothered me. Yeah. Almost more than the stuff with her husband. So Bernadine gets put on, like, these pills for depression and everything because she sees her doctor and, you know, we already know that she's taking Xanax, which results in that weird Circle K drive where she's in her nightgown and stuff. But she tells her doctor straight up that the pills make her go crazy. Like, she was in that weird fog. She just, was a hot mess. And she tells her doctor that, and the doctor says to her, I understand how you must feel, and I'm sorry that the medication doesn't agree with you. She is literally speaking, and it's something that especially now with everything going on with, with COVID and everything, that you're learning a lot more about. You know, people of color aren't listened to as often by doctors as other people. And it sounds like this doctor is just like making it seem like she's making a mountain out of a molehill. And,
I mean, women, too. It's people of color, but there's the extra layer of she's a woman. So, I don't think that women are listened to either.
Yeah. It was just so irritating, especially because she's smart. We know she's smart. And everything else that's going on in her life, to add this on top of it, where there's another, that's the thing that's driving me nuts about us reading these books where women are main characters, because there's always there's always someone who doesn't believe them. They're always hysterical for some reason or another. I'm just angry.
It doesn't end. No matter
No.
what period piece we're talking about, what
Period
it's
piece.
they don't. No, I don't mean the 90s. I was thinking of Little Women.
Oh, I thought you were.
To be honest,
you said it like menstrual.
Well, actually,
Period piece.
Speaking of menstrual, I did note that in this, I think, is it? Yeah, I think Savannah talks about like how PMS gets worse as you get older, and I'm like, oh yeah, it does. Then she also, I think it's her or Robin, mentions UTIs, and I thought back to Eat, Pray, Love, and how
my God,
she ends her book with this like epic UTI, and I'm like, see, this is how you talk about it. You talk about it like, yeah, this sucks, and it happens. It's not like a bragging thing. So yeah, maybe it is a period piece. I don't know.
Even though Bernadine is a boss and everything she does is like super kind of amazing, she still has an affair with a married man.
I know. And this one, there's a few affairs in this book, and there is kind of a, well, aren't you being a little hypocritical right now?
Yes.
If you're really upset about your men cheating on you, maybe don't go and date a married man.
Gloria's the only one. We can say Gloria's the only one who doesn't sleep with a married man. Spoiler alert.
Right. Yeah.
But Bernadine sleeping with a married man while she's going through her divorce was kind of like, what are you doing? Like, what are you actually doing? You were mad because your husband had another woman. Now you are the other woman to somebody else. Like, that's not the way to do it.
The extra detail of what his wife is going through.
Yeah.
She's got cancer.
Oh, wait, I wasn't talking about him. I was talking about the sports guy.
Oh, geez, yeah, there's two.
I was talking about her being with, so Bernadine has two affairs. She's with this guy that she was friends with before, and she starts sleeping with him, and then he gets super like weird and stalky. She mentions that he shows up at her house and stuff like that.
And the like he's talking to her kid, right?
Yeah. And it's very bizarre. She turns into Robin for a hot second because she runs through men because there's a sports guy, and she's like, I had to let him go because he was calling me at all hours of the night and he should have been with his wife. And it's like, exactly. You knew that. You knew it was wrong. Why'd you do it? And then there's the, the airline pilot that she mentions who hangs out with her kids. And Gloria's like, are you sure you're doing the right thing? And Bernadine was just like, don't tell me what to do. And then it's the guy at the hotel whose wife has cancer.
Yeah.
At least with that one...
Yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah.
It's really, really complicated. I still don't know how I feel about it.
I am in the same boat as you. I want to say it's a Michael situation where he's very honest. He's very open, he's very honest.
He is.
And he goes into it knowing what he's doing. She goes into it knowing what she's doing. And I will say that she only sleeps with him once.
Yeah.
And it's not until, like, the end of the book that he reaches back out.
Right.
And he sends a letter letting her know that his wife did die. But what's so interesting about that is that his wife, who is dying, not only has cancer, but she is white.
Yeah. It's layers upon layers of psychological... Yeah.
It's crazy. And they end up sleeping together right after her divorce is finalized. The day her divorce goes through.
The interesting thing about Bernadine is that in her marriage, and just who she is, she's clearly not someone who is just after the money.
Yeah.
Like, she is smart enough to realize that she is owed what she is owed. That if he has more money, she deserves more, and she's not going to let him get away with it. I don't think that that's someone who is a gold digger. I think that she's just being fair. And then,
agreed.
the fact that she's selling stuff for $1, I mean, that's more cathartic than it is, you know, after the money. And her with him, it's weird because she's clearly not getting what she wants from these rebounds. And it's also clear that in her marriage, what she was missing was knowing who she was in intimacy. She wasn't getting intimacy from her husband in the last few years. So the two of them together, the guy with the wife with cancer, it's like this bittersweet thing where they're both these like two sad people in between chapters of their lives, and they are finding each other and wanting more intimacy than just sex.
Yeah. It's an option. It's an opportunity for her to be finally vulnerable. It's
right.
It's gonna sound so stupid, but you know when you used to be able to go get your hair cut and you could just tell your hairstylist like anything that was bothering you and everything. It's like going to see I should have said this first. It's like seeing a therapist and just being open and honest because they have no stake in your life except in that one moment. And I think that's how it felt that's how it came across to me with Bernadine in that moment, is that she finally found someone who doesn't know every aspect of her life, but she wants them to understand her.
Yeah. And the part that made me kind of sad was he says, like, he hasn't... I think he says in the book it's like 6 months, and in the movie they make it like a year and a half or something.
Yeah.
He hasn't had sex. And then you just kind of feel for him, like, for that too, because that's still like a human part of being human. I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about it, to be honest.
in the book they make mention that they him and his wife knew that they weren't good for each other and that they both wanted a divorce. And then as soon as they both agreed that they wanted the divorce, she finds out she has cancer. So it adds another layer to it where you're like, okay, so he's not emotionally, like, he's emotionally invested, but not enough where it's like, you know, he's not still in love with this woman. It's more like, I'm taking care of a friend, but not in the Liz Gilbert way where you end up marrying that friend.
Right. Man, are we going to shit talk her for the rest of this podcast?
The rest of the year. The rest of the year, Liz. We're coming for you.
Oh, jeez.
We should have never read that book. With
so sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask you about Savannah in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
She goes to Las Vegas for a conference and meets a man, and you know, they end up sleeping together. They spend the entire conference weekend together. My question to you is, do you think that man was also married?
Yeah, there were some red flags when they're talking that he could have been.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because it becomes painfully obvious when she comes back from Vegas that he's definitely, honestly, I don't even know if he might have even been in a relationship with somebody. It seems like one of those, like, clandestine moments where it's just like, we're together in this one space at this one time. Let's have this, you know, whirlwind relationship and part ways.
Yeah.
It's like an affair to remember. It's like, we're never going to see each other again.
See, I think more of, you know, in the first season of The Haunting of Hill House?
Yes.
When it's like it's revealed that the wife had an affair while she was on a conference.
Yeah.
It's like that, but for a whole weekend.
Yeah. Like that, yeah.
Spoiler alert for Haunting of Hill House.
Oops. This season we're just going to rag on Elizabeth Gilbert and spoil everything but the thing we're talking about.
Leonardo DiCaprio dies.
In everything? Wait, in real life? Is he dead? Shut up. He's a ghost? Him and Bruce Willis. I'm learning so much on our podcast. The other thing that with Savannah is that even though, like, she has that relationship with that guy I wouldn't even call it a relationship. She has a weekend with that guy in Vegas, but
Yeah.
a man from her past, Kenneth, shows up in Arizona, and we find out he's married and he has a daughter. Mm-hmm. And Savannah, to her credit, she knows everything's wrong. She tries to keep her distance.
Yeah.
She's mad at her mom for giving him her number in the first place. Yeah. And by the way, Savannah is taking care of her mom, who lives in Section 8 housing and is living off of food stamps. And Savannah has other siblings who aren't lifting a finger. And that irritated me.
You know, and let me just, like, interject here. I feel like, because Robin has a thing with her parents, Gloria is trying to help everybody between her employees, her neighbors, her son, other people in the neighborhood, the few guys that she's been, like, involved with. She's always trying to give so much. They really all four are. And I found myself so many times thinking, stop. Like, it's great to be a giving person. That's a wonderful, part of your personality, but stop. You have to take care of yourself before you take care of other people. And when other people, like, yes, those other siblings, know that she's going to be giving her mom money, they know they don't have to.
Yeah.
So, and I think the same thing with Gloria. I think the same thing with Robin. Like, you have to protect yourself a bit from being almost too nice.
Yeah, and all four women are part of that committee where they give back to the community. So it all, I didn't do a lot of research into, like, the early 90s to find out what hashtag self-care was like. But it's true. These women are giving their all to perform well in their jobs, giving their all to find meaningful relationships, and then whatever's left over, they're giving back to their family and friends. It's like they don't have time for themselves. And maybe that's why Robin ends up going back to Russell over and over and over again, because it's a moment where she doesn't have to think about anything.
Right.
I mean, that would make a lot of sense. But yeah, Savannah and Kenneth.
Yeah.
I was really rooting for her. I thought it wasn't going to happen. I didn't think they were going to sleep together. And even after they did, she felt bad about it.
Yeah.
And she told him not to call her anymore. She told him to go away, but they end up sleeping together more than once.
Yeah.
It's...
But she starts to buy into the fact that he keeps saying that he's going to leave his wife.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's any moment now. And she keeps thinking that he is going to keep to his word.
Yeah. She is definitely what Robin would have become if Robin didn't have a baby.
Well, but the interesting thing is that, yeah, she's being the older Robin, but then in Robin getting pregnant out of marriage and without a solid man, she's turning into Gloria.
Yeah.
Gloria having the baby early on. I mean, the only thing that is the difference between Robin and Gloria is that Robin is maybe 8 years older. So at least she has a solid career that she can lean on. But Robin's still kind of making, I don't want to say a mistake, but she's making some questionable life choices at the same rate that her friends are who are older.
Yeah. Ugh. Robin. One more thing about Robin. Can we talk about the time that she dated that guy who sold crack to people? and then told his entire family to come to a barbecue at his house to meet her.
Yeah, and he's the first guy that invited her over to meet his mama.
Yeah, but they had only been dating for 3 days.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh yeah.
Listen, even I saw that red flag, and I'm not a character in the book. Like, come on.
I almost forgot about that guy. And yeah, he steals from her, right? He steals her wallet and stuff.
They never specifically say that he
It's
was
like
the one who
just-
stole it. But her wallet goes missing. And she says she finds it behind...
It's her car, right?
Yeah.
She, like, drives over the car. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and Savannah's the one who's like, well, at least we know now who stole your wallet. And Robin's like, no, you think he stole it? Girl, of course he stole it. He leaves her by saying, maybe you should be careful about who you pick up in the grocery store. He definitely stole your wallet. Idiot.
Oh, Robin.
Oh, God. You know what? I shouldn't be so hard on her. We all make stupid mistakes. Some more than others, but we... Robin.
I just, she does the thing where she keeps making the same mistakes. Like, stop with Russell.
Yeah.
Move on.
Speaking of moving on, let's talk about Gloria a little bit more.
Oh, Gloria.
She has a great son.
Yeah.
Yes, he's now interested in women. He's, he hates his dad, his father, whatever he wants to call him. But he's a saxophone player. He wants to join up with people and travel the world.
Yeah.
He's a really good kid.
Yeah, and I like their relationship because he's going through that teen angst phase where he's got his secrets. He doesn't want his mom knowing everything. But even when she figures out that he lied about going to stay at his guy friend's house and that he was actually with a girl, they end up laughing about it.
Oh, yeah.
And then she's just like, look, as long as you wear protection, just, be smart. Yeah. And they have like a pretty healthy relationship.
They really do. For everything that is going on in this book, the best relationship between a man and a woman is definitely between Gloria and her son.
Which at the same time is a little unhealthy, though, because she blocks herself out from romantic relationships with men.
Yeah. She closes herself off between work and her house, which I can understand. Yeah. Sometimes I want to sit at home on my couch and watch TV too. But it's that's my favorite part of the book is every time she's sitting around and she's like, I could have been home watching blank on TV. And I'm like, girl, me too. I don't want to be at this party where Robin's going to do something stupid. I want to go home. It's like, oh God, I really did love Gloria. But it is true. Like, she becomes very codependent on her son. And when he's talking about, like, she wants him to go to Arizona State for college, and he's talking about he wants to travel the world with people. And it's like, she has to realize that she is going to end up alone when he does leave. And it's at this point that she gets a new neighbor, a hot guy neighbor across the street. I assume he's hot. They really don't describe him in the book.
I feel like there is something where he is... I feel like there is one description where he's just, like, strong. Yeah. I feel like they say he's strong or something like that because he is, like, he's handy.
Yeah, he's a handy man.
Yeah, so I feel like there is, like, some sort of description of that. So you can pick apart what you want from that.
You know what? I'm going to take my interpretation from the film with Gregory Hines. She's got a hot next-door neighbor.
Oh my God, I don't. Okay, we're gonna get into the movie really soon, so I don't want to like jump the shark and get into it too fast. But there were all the guy actors I was so excited about, and I didn't look up anything. I didn't look up anything
either.
when I started watching.
I knew the basics, but oh my God.
Yeah, same. It's like I knew Angela Bassett, I knew Whitney Houston, I knew a car gets lit on fire, but I didn't know anybody else really. And when Gregory Hines showed up, I was like, "Aw, Gregory Hines."
Yeah, when we'll get into the movie in a minute, but yes.
Yeah.
When things are finally looking up for Gloria, because throughout the whole book, let me just say this too. Throughout the whole book, she makes mention that, like, her dad died in a car accident. Her mom, I think, had a heart attack because she had high blood pressure. She's taking these blood pressure pills, and there's a lot of mention in the book where she's, like, talking about her breathing, and it was all labored breathing and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I was on the edge of my seat every chapter about Gloria because I thought she was legit going to have a heart attack every chapter. I thought she was going to have a heart attack on her birthday.
I knew that she was going to have a heart attack, and then it's like the one of the very last chapters, and it's right before she has, spoiler alert, the heart attack. Yeah. And it's when Savannah has the car and she hasn't been giving it oil. And then the car, the engine explodes. So then she has to, like, you know, do all this stuff and, like, call work. I was like, oh my God, Gloria's going to have a heart attack. Yeah. This is the foreshadowing of the heart attack. And then, then Savannah goes over to Gloria's house. And then the next chapter cuts to Gloria in the hospital because she had a major heart attack.
Yeah. The heart attack was... It wasn't shocking. Like, she really alluded to it in the entire book. But it was still, it comes at such a depressing time because you have that amazing scene of her birthday party where they all come over to cheer her up because she was just like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to go anywhere. You know, you have that amazing moment with her and her son. He buys her those earrings. It's very sweet.
Yeah.
And they just have, like, this crazy girls' night, which I was just like, oh, man, I was waiting for this. And then, like, 2 chapters later, you know, she's having a heart attack. But the cutest thing about that scene, which is so difficult, like, the thing that upset me about that scene was when they kept mentioning her being fat. Again, while she's in the hospital recovering from a heart attack that she almost died from. And they're like, maybe, is this really what it's going to take for you to work out? Stuff like that. It was like, why are you saying this to her? Like, yeah, she knows she has she knows that her weight is an issue. It's been an issue the entire book. And it's something that she's been, you know, dealing with mentally. And to constantly be reminding her about that, especially at the hospital, like, that was a low blow.
See, I don't even think it is her weight necessarily. I feel like it's that she doesn't take care of herself. So mentally, she's not giving herself, like, mental health days. She's doing stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And then there is the consideration of the food that she's making. I don't necessarily think that it's maybe, like, the healthiest food, but that doesn't necessarily correlate evenly to weight. You know what I mean? Like, she's not like, gigantic. Like, I think it's just that she's not taking care of herself and that there's a stress issue.
I was going to say, I think stress is definitely the biggest issue when it comes to Gloria's heart attack because right before that, too, her hairstylist quits. And then the other one calls in and says he has shingles. And she thinks...
it's AIDS.
Yeah. She thought it was a made-up disease. I remember reading that and she's like, shingles? You mean he has AIDS? I was like, does Gloria not know that shingles is a disease? Like, it's legit. I see the ads on TV. But, But yeah, and then he can't get any work after that because now everyone, because they don't actually specifically say in the book if he had AIDS or not.
I thought that it was, like, heavily,
but I wonder if the alluding to it was more because of Gloria's ignorance about shingles. Versus actually, because she's the one who kind of puts that mindset out there of him having AIDS.
Yeah.
And I think she's the one who kind of starts that whole thing, and then that's why he can't get any work.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm on the fence about whether it was AIDS or actually shingles. But back to Gloria in the hospital, her next door neighbor and her son and everybody, they all show up at the hospital for her. And he says that he's her husband. And I was like, just wanted to, like, wrap Gloria up in that moment and be like, girl, you got this.
And at the end, she's got all of them around her and she's kind of out of it. So she's not, you know, completely there, but it's, you know, all of her friends, her son, the next door neighbor. And she says that she's surrounded by the people that she loves.
Yeah.
Aww.
It was that's probably the best part of the whole book, that one sweet moment where it feels like everyone has what they need.
Yeah, and it's interesting because at the beginning, out of the 4, Gloria is the least interested in men, and then at the end, she's really the only one who has one, like, solid. The other 3 find love in different ways.
Yeah.
So with Robin, Robin's excited about having a child, and then the other 2 are more excited about the love that they found with themselves and their careers.
Yeah. it is a good book.
It is.
I know we ripped Robin to shreds, but it just feels so good to sit with a group of women and have them talk about things that you understand. Yeah. That's not to say like a man talking about, you know, being stressed and stuff. I don't understand that.
Sure.
But it feels different when you have a group of very sassy, wonderful, like powerful women. Like you could look up to some of them, not all their choices, but like Savannah pushing herself so hard so that she can produce something, and then they give her that production job. Sure, it's like a time slot that barely anybody watches, but she has ideas and she wants to change it, and I'm like, that's the kind of drive that I am attracted to in individuals. And I was just like, oh yeah, Savannah. It just felt good.
Well, I mean, even down to the little stuff, like in the very first chapter when Savannah is talking about how she still looks good and she is proud of the way that she looks, yet she feels the need to suck in her stomach when she walks into the party. And then later on, you know, when Bernadine gets her haircut, like there's this kind of it feels like she's washing herself, like she's cutting off the past and starting fresh. Like little things like that throughout, just you can connect to so easily.
It's very, you know, sisters are doing it for themselves. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's nice to have a book where even though men are the main topic of discussion, men are not the main characters.
Oh, no, not at all.
Which is surprising because as we move into the film version, you see who directed this movie?
Forrest Whitaker.
I died. And then to find out that he also directed Hope Floats and First Daughter.
Yeah.
Jesse had to peel me off the floor. I was dead. I was out. I was like, I can't. I ran into the kitchen. I was like, Jesse, remember when we were watching Star Wars?
Yeah, and Forrest Whitaker has such a weird career too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the movie came out in 1995, directed by Forrest Whitaker, starring Angela Bassett as Bernadine, Loretta Devine as Gloria, Layla Roshan, I think, as Robin, and then Whitney Houston finally as Savannah. And Forrest Whitaker, I like I said, I tried not to read too much about it all, but you can't help but see that Forrest Whitaker directed it. I thought, that's really interesting that, like, I'm glad that it's not just like a white guy directing it, but it is interesting that it's not directed by a woman. So I did kind of wonder if it was going to still have that sort of sensitivity, and I think it does.
It does. I was honestly, that's the thing that surprised me, besides just that it was Forrest Whitaker, but that he was able to carry a lot of the very strong feminine themes from the book into the movie. But I think that he did sacrifice a lot.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of really, really good moments from the book that would have solidified a lot more in the movie.
Yeah, and you know, I've talked about it before where I understand there's a difference between literary sensibilities and the Hollywood view. There are a lot of things in the movie that are the same from the book, but it's with that Hollywood filter.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot because I mean it's the same story. It's the same story. It's the same characters. It's actually pretty decent. There's nothing added really majorly. Like there's added moments, but nothing really added like whole scenes that are different.
Yeah.
But there's a different view. So like the whole Michael thing where we were talking about when they have sex, it's played for laughs. It's a comedic
they make
scene.
Michael out to be like a chump.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I did laugh.
Yeah. When he's standing in the hallway rubbing his hands.
When they're having sex and he says, "I love it when you call me Big Papa." and she has not said that. She never called him Big Papa.
No.
But It definitely, and then like there's a part when they're both under the sheets and she's in this like, I mean, she's got a knockout body by the way.
Oh yeah, she looks great. Every outfit she wears, they put
no,
her
the
in
white
some
one.
crazy lingerie in this movie, and it's just like, oh, I should probably start running again.
Yeah. No, she's got this gorgeous face, gorgeous body, and she's in this like super sexy red lingerie. And then she goes under the sheets and she takes her panties off under the sheets and then like throws them seductively. And then Michael pulls off his boxers under the sheets and then throws them seductively. I mean, they were like, it made me laugh, but at the same time, it was upsetting.
My favorite part was when he tries to carry her to the bed. Yeah. And he just like tosses her. Oh god, it's so funny. I will say that, yeah, they don't really add anything to it, but they almost downplay how bad the men are.
Yeah, agree.
Especially when it comes to Bernadine and her husband, because there's that in the book, you get this. Yeah. You get a lot of talk with the lawyers where you find out a lot of shady stuff that's going on. And then in the movie, you really only have Bernadine acting hysterical going into that meeting full of people. This is something that does happen in the book. Bernadine goes into her husband's office and slaps the white woman he is going to marry, pulls her by her hair and yanks her out of the room. But it's just the three of them in that room. In the movie version, it is like a board meeting. And she still slaps her.
Yeah, and at the end of the movie, well, actually, let me go back. At the end of the book, the attorney tells her that she's going to be getting basically like almost $1 million.
Yeah.
And she's happy because she knows that she can probably start her catering business, but instead of doing a catering business, she wants to do like a bakery, but it's aimed at Black culture.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. And then at the end of the movie, she gets way more money. She gets whole property. She gets like a lot more stuff. She gets stocks. And then instead of thanking her lawyer, I mean, I think she does. I think she like looks at her like, thanks. She walks over to her husband and they hold hands. Yeah. And then she walks out of the courtroom. I'm like, why the fuck are you holding his hand? He didn't do shit.
Yeah, I felt like they really played down how bad these men were. Even when it comes to Robin and the guy selling all the drugs. There's like he is supposed to be like completely strung out according to the book, and he's a mess. And the only real bad thing he did was throw an orange at her. Which was also really funny too, especially when she throws that orange back at him and you just hear him go, "Oh!"
Yeah, and he's played by, I hope I'm saying his name right, Mike Kelty Williamson. So he's the guy who plays Bubba in Forrest Gump. Yeah. And I almost feel bad because he's got such a rich like filmography, and yet I always say that's Bubba from Forrest Gump. But it's him, and he is really good. He is kind of strung out in that scene. Like he's got the red eyes, he's slurring his speech, he's in this like ridiculous black like leather vest with shirt underneath. Yeah, and he's stumbling around.
Well, she makes a point to yell at him about something too when she's on that balcony, and she's like, "Who wears leather in Arizona?" Yeah. I think that was my big issue more than anything, was how I loved in the book how the men were awful people and they got what was coming to them, you know? Whereas in the movie, it's kind of like, oh, why'd you make this choice? Like, I understand, you know, for time and stuff like that. But there's still, like, even Kenneth in the movie is not, like, he's not that bad of a guy. Like, he says he's going to leave his wife, and you really see how much he cares for Savannah and all this stuff. And then it's Savannah who's like, who stands up and says all the stuff about him. It's just...
Well, In the book, she even is like, am I crazy? Or is he actually going to leave his wife? Am I being,
Yeah.
I don't want to call him out, and maybe he is at his word. And in the movie, it's weird because there's just the one phone call when she gives him breakfast and he hears her say, I love you. And it's clear that he's not speaking to his daughter.
Yeah.
So, but aside from that scene, there's really not a whole lot that gives you a red flag that perhaps he's lying about his marriage situation.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that bothered me about it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. But it was nice to see Donald Faison as
I know.
as the son. And then that scene when they're in church, when he's still trying to convince her to let him go with people, and he doesn't know that she had already put in the prayer for him at the church for his trip with Up With People. Oh my God, don't even. I wanted to cry.
Well, it was funny because, I was watching this movie in the living room, and Carlos was upstairs working, and he walks down, and it's when Donald Faison's getting the blowjob in like the backyard, and Gloria walks in on him, and that's right when Carlos came down to get some water.
He has
and then
perfect
he sees
timing.
The TV. He always has perfect timing, and he sees Donald Faison, and he's like, "This is the weirdest episode of Scrubs I've ever seen." But then later, I mean, this is like half an hour later, it's when Bernadine meets the guy who's married with a wife with cancer at the hotel, and it's Wesley Snipes.
Yes.
And Carlos comes down again, and he goes, Blade?
This is a very weird movie for Carlos to be watching.
I know.
There so many great actors showed up in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
I am so glad I didn't do any research before that.
Same.
Like, oh my goodness. Every time someone came up on screen, Jesse would go, hey, isn't that guy? And I'm like, yeah, it's that guy. Like, the whole time.
Gloria's, the daddy of her son is Giancarlo Esposito.
Oh, yeah. Don't even get me started on how Moff Gideon just showed up. And I was like, he showed up and I was like, don't give him the boy.
He takes out the Darksaber.
Yeah, I was like, oh. Jesse's like, oh my God, it's the Mandalorian guy. I was like, yeah. I was like, we can't. Everybody's in this movie.
Do you know who is the guy who played Russell?
Who?
Okay, so the guy that played Russell, he goes only by Leon, and he's the dude in Madonna's Like a Prayer video.
Shut up.
No.
Shut up. Russell's in Madonna's. Oh, shut up. Shut up. Where's my computer? I gotta Google.
Do it.
I'm doing it.
Test me. You'll see it. I spotted him and I knew immediately. I was like, that's the guy from the Like a Prayer video. So I looked him up, and yeah, that's and he's been in a bunch of stuff, but I mean, Like a Prayer, hello.
Oh my God. Oh my God, he was in the. Shut up. He was also in Cool Running. Shut up. Shut up.
And I watched that movie for the first time last year, so yeah.
I can't believe that you just watched it for the first time last year. I love Cool Runnings.
Well, you're pushing me to do it during quarantine.
Oh, yeah.
It was between that and Mighty Ducks.
Did you watch Mighty Ducks yet?
Choice. Not yet. Sorry.
Oh my God. I am losing my mind. He's in so much.
He's, yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. I can't, because we're going to go down a wormhole that I'll never get back from. Yeah, other than the way the men are portrayed in the film's kind of accurate.
Yeah, some of the biggest changes, I mean, Gloria doesn't have a heart attack, which I thought was very surprising.
Yeah, I agree with that too. It's a weird choice to not have her. She has no ailments at all.
No.
And it kind of made her character kind of hollow in the film.
Well, it takes away some vulnerability, but I also think that it's a little bit problematic that she's just like a little bit overweight and she's on death's door. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Like, both, I would say that both versions of Gloria in the book and in the movie aren't the best, characters, because, in the book, she's a little overweight and she has a heart attack. But in the movie, she really had, like, this sounds so awful. Her defining characteristic in the book was that. So when you took that away from her in the movie, she doesn't make as big of a presence in any of the scenes because there's really nothing for her to work with. Like, with every other characteristic carried over except for anything for Gloria. And they accelerated her relationship with her next door neighbor almost to compensate for that.
I think that there's a yearning that Gloria has for intimacy, and she's in this process of saying goodbye to her son, and then she replaces her son with the neighbor.
Yeah. Because that's the other thing, too, is that some of the best scenes in the book with Gloria are the ones with her son, and we learn how codependent she is on her son, and those scenes didn't even carry over into the movie.
Which is a shame, because I think her and Donald Faison would have been awesome together.
Those scenes would have been so funny, especially when she's talking to him about those hickeys on his neck. He's like, oh, who gave you that? Your friend? Like, those would have been hilarious. And it's... And all the conversations that she has with him. Like, it was also kind of weird because they make no mention of him in the movie being into the saxophone, being in the band. And then there's that one part right around her birthday, and it's just a cut of him
saxophone,
playing Happy Birthday in the backyard. Just like smooth jazz. All of a sudden, I was like, "What is going on?" And then I had to remember it's in the book.
It's in the book, but there's also a lot of 90s stuff in this movie that just kind of makes me a little nostalgic and kind of laugh. Like, the opening credits are sort of crazy. They actually are kind of in the clear with most of their wardrobe, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of the wardrobe pieces are timeless, but then you still get like the 90s vests the tiny little buttons at the top of a blouse, the earrings. You still get that stuff. And then the saxophone. Yeah.
It's just, it is entirely dated. Like, you can put that movie on and know, like, ooh, this is sometime before 1998, 100%, hands down. Yeah. But it's, honestly, I liked some of the outfits.
Oh, I did too. I totally did.
That black dress that Whitney Houston wore at the beginning of the movie.
It's like a chocolatey brown.
It is.
It's not like black.
Yeah.
It's this like really velvety dress, and I thought it was interesting because in the book she wears like a blue suede, I think, right?
Yeah, she wears a lot of blue suede, and she wears a lot of oranges.
Right. Yeah, she even talks about like the orange lipstick. And I also liked how, did you notice the nails?
Yeah.
Like Whitney Houston, she has just completely natural, normal, short nails. And then Angela Bassett's nails are like perfectly manicured. And then Robin has these like kind of bright red nails. And they all have like their personalities are part of their hair and nails.
Yeah, it was... I just want to go back for a minute and just think about Whitney Houston's dress because it looks like it was poured onto her.
Oh, yeah. Completely agree.
It's gorgeous. And then when Angela Bassett gets that short haircut.
I loved it.
Oh, my God. I was like, her with the long hair. Beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Her with that short hair.
Gorgeous.
Even. Oh, my God.
I don't know which one I like better.
I like them both. Why can't we have both?
I know. Like when she goes out to burn the car, and it's the exact same. I mean, and I read too that when she's collecting the wardrobe, obviously she knew what the character says in the book, but it wasn't a solid script. So she just was allowed to vent. So she's like pseudo improving when she's grabbing everything, and you can kind of feel it because
Yeah.
it feels just like very natural. And like her in those like the rich nightgowns and the jewelry and the long hair, oh, amazing. But then her with the short hair, also amazing.
Everything. I thought I loved the scene in the book when with the burning of the clothes in the car. I loved
Yeah.
it so much more in the movie. The sass in her
It's
face without even saying a single word, like my God.
that scene is funny,
Yeah,
heartbreaking. It's all of it at the same time. You're like laughing and you also want to cry. It's very well done.
it is. That's probably the best. I do wish like I felt that it was weird to have the addition of Savannah's mom in
Hmm.
the movie without having anyone else's parents. I think
Yeah.
I understand that the situation with Savannah and her mom is kind of like a big central point for Savannah's character in general in the book, but she really only shows up twice in the movie, so it was almost like why even include it at that point, especially towards because the stuff with like the food stamps and sending her mom money via Western Union really only shows up
Yeah.
a little after halfway through the film. So you're kind of like, oh. But I really wish the stuff with Robin's family would have been included in the movie to give her something where she's redeemable.
Yeah.
Especially the scene from the book where she's asleep on her parents' couch and her dad comes downstairs and he tells her that he loves her.
Yeah.
Because I felt like movie Robin comes off a little bit, I don't want to say a little bit nicer than book Robin, because they cut out a lot of the fat shaming except for with Michael. But she still makes the same stupid mistakes.
Well, it's weird. We talked about with Bernardine, and she ends up, you know, holding the hand of her ex-husband, and there's like some closure with that's not in the book, and it's completely unnecessary. With Robin, and she actually tells Russell that she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And there is no last scene with her and Michael. So that I think makes her both more likable, but then also adds closure to this character where there is no closure. And to be honest, there probably won't be anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think it felt weird for them to humanize some of the bad stuff about Bernadine's husband, but not still smooth out some of Robin's edges.
Yeah.
It just felt like a weird choice. And I wonder if a lot of that had to do with the fact that it is a female-centric film through a male gaze. Like,
I don't know. It is through a male gaze, but it's also a Hollywood gaze.
Yeah.
And you're condensing a almost 500-page book into 2 hours.
yeah.
There's going to be cuts that are made. There's going to be combining different storylines and characters, and you do just kind of lose a bit of context and quality, to be honest.
Yeah.
When it comes to as messy of a stories as they all have, you lose some.
Yeah. I do like that no matter what, you still have this great film about female friendship.
Yeah, the moment when it's Whitney Houston, she's visiting Angela Bassett, and they're on the patio and they hold hands,
Mm-hmm.
and Angela Bassett says, "I am scared," and then Whitney Houston says, "I am too," and then they're just quiet.
Yeah.
I mean, I teared up. I thought that was such a great moment, and that moment happens in the book, but it's almost better.
It's
in
better.
The movie
It's
because
definitely better in the movie.
You see them.
Feel it hits a lot harder in the film than it does in the book. Like, it was just and then every scene that the four women are in together,
Electrifying.
yeah, it was just perfect.
Yeah.
Like, even the weird addition of that bonfire at the end of the movie, I don't think it was necessarily needed, to show, you know, that these women were all going to be together and they're bonded by this experience and stuff. But I still liked having it there. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second because it's not in the book, but I really love the storytelling of opening the book and it's New Year's Eve and closing the book and it's New Year's Eve. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning, they're all with their respective men, and at the end, they're all with each other.
Yeah.
And they're celebrating New Year's Eve. But then, okay, you know how in the Die Hard episode I said that I have this weird love for poorly disguised stunt doubles?
Yes.
I have a weird love for really bad 80s and 90s freeze frames. So they have this great moment at the end with New Year's Eve and celebrating together, and then it does this like weird slow-mo.
Yeah, with them like swinging their arms up.
And then it ends on a freeze frame shot and the music is swelling. I loved it. I was laughing so hard.
It just felt so thrown together.
Yeah, but it works.
It worked. Way. I know. I was like, I hated how much I liked that it worked. I still wanted it to be like, oh no, take that away. But I was like, yeah, girls, do it. Bring in the new year together. Who needs men? While my husband's sitting on the couch with me.
On the way to celebrating New Year's together, they are in the car singing, and did you notice all of their power necklaces?
I didn't.
They all have these really beautiful, mostly like choker, kind of like power necklaces, and they all look so good. I will say it again, the costuming for this film, everybody looks their best. Like they are hair, makeup, costume, tens across the board. Like I was here for everything that they wore. I was there for it. I was like, okay, this is great. I appreciated too their ages, because you would think that with a book where they're supposed to be all around in their 30s, that Hollywood would fuck it up and make them in their 20s. Yeah. But the ages, it's Angela Bassett's 37, Loretta Devine's 46, Layla Rochon is 31, and Whitney Houston's 32. That's perfectly fine. That all matches, give or take a few years, the different ages.
Yeah, I couldn't see anyone else playing these characters, honestly, after seeing the movie too, because they fit really well.
As much as I enjoy Whitney Houston, she's not the best acting in this movie.
No, that is true.
And
I found out that she had an overdose while they were filming this movie.
She did. She had a cocaine overdose. That's correct.
So I wonder if that is why there
Possible.
are... Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And because I do like her. I do like her in other stuff, but
Don't even get me started on The Bodyguard.
Yeah, exactly.
Girl, I'm going to start crying right now. Don't get me started on The Bodyguard.
I almost wonder if because of where Whitney Houston was at, perhaps some of her scenes were cut, because it just felt like the book is somewhat Savannah heavy. Yeah. And she's probably out of the four the least featured, I'd say, on her own and not in group scenes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that I wonder if what you're feeling, because I know that you would probably recast Whitney as Savannah as with somebody else, but I wonder if a lot of that came across because of what was going on behind the scenes.
Possible, yeah.
I mean, I will say this, the sassiness of it and everything, I could see Queen Latifah, but that is all. I could definitely see her playing a role.
See, I feel like in 1995, I don't know. In 2000 something, sure.
Well,
does that make sense?
It does. Well, good news for us, because in November 2020, it was reported that ABC was... I know you were going to come with this fun fact, so I'm popping it in there first. ABC is developing a TV series adaptation of the film with Lee Daniels as executive producer. And don't even get me started on Lee Daniels. I love everything he does. So, bring it on.
I have some mixed feelings about this because I think that Waiting to Exhale is perfect for a TV series.
Yeah.
As I said, it's a long book. There's a lot to unpack. The book, I mean, we haven't even, you could have a whole podcast just on the book. There's so much going on. I do think it's perfect for a TV show, but I kind of see it as, yes, probably updating it for maybe like nowadays times, but kind of doing what Hannibal did, where yes, you're updating it. Yes, you're maybe changing certain characters, but you're really just going through the stories. You're going through the storylines as written in the book. But they said that, I mean, number one, it's ABC, so I don't know about that. But also, the TV reimagining looks at the next generation of our women through the lens of the tangled friendships and complicated lives of their daughters. So you're not going to see these 4 women. You're going to see their daughters.
Which is interesting because, as we know, Gloria has a son. Thank you very much. But I am interested in it because Waiting to Exhale is just book 1 in a series.
Right.
So I am curious, and I know I'm probably going to try and read some more of the series just to see where the characters themselves end up and if it really carries through. But I wonder if that's what is going to come into play in the TV series. Because Waiting to Exhale is such a cultural, moment where people know the film, people know the book. Are we going to see the other storylines from the other books play a larger part versus what everybody knows from the book and the film of Waiting to Exhale?
Right.
Which would be a shame because I do want to see another car set on fire. I love revenge.
When I was doing research after I watched the movie, I saw one thing that was funny, which is that and they didn't list all the movies, so I don't know what they are, but I guess Angela Bassett has set 3 cars on fire in different movies.
Yes. I'm going to watch them all. 1 down, 2 to go. Oh, do you think she does it in How Stella Got Her Groove Back?
I don't know, but I'm so excited about reading and watching that. We need to put that. I think it's already on the list, but we need to bump it up.
Yeah, we need to set a date for that one.
She's so gorgeous. I can't stop looking at her.
I know.
She was almost 40 in this. She was like 37 in the movie, and now she's like 60 something, and she looks exactly the same.
She has not changed a day. Like, no. I am generally in awe of her. Like, if I saw her on the street, I'd probably cry because I'd be like, oh my God. Like, what do you say? Hi, here's the keys to my car. Will you set it on fire? Like, what do you say?
You mentioned earlier, like, her face. Like, I can't remember what part it is, but there's a part when... Oh, no. You know what? It's actually when she's talking to James at the hotel. And it's when he says that, I need to tell you something, and I understand if you're going to be mad, but he says, my wife is a white woman. And her face doesn't change, but her eyebrow just goes up and then down very quickly. Like, the control that she has over her face as an actor, she's so good.
We could just turn this podcast into a whole episode where we just talk about her. Just like a love letter to Angela Bassett.
Well, and the fact that we haven't watched How Stella Got Her Groove Back, and I mean, isn't that kind of like her Gilda? Isn't that the Angela Bassett movie?
Yeah, it's coming. Everyone listening, it's coming. And we are gonna be better people for it. I'm very excited. When we're done recording, let's talk about when we're gonna do that one. I do have a question for you. Do you watch credits all the way through when you watch a movie?
Usually, yeah.
Can I tell you the thing that I found the most interesting about these credits? And it wasn't the font.
See, I don't remember anything, so what is it?
When they get to the part where they're talking about the songs that were used in the film.
Yeah.
Every single song, with the exception of My Funny Valentine, was written and produced by Babyface.
Babyface, yeah. This is a Babyface production.
Every single song. Because it's, I like seeing, like, the songs that were used because they, especially for this, I am a very big, as we already discussed, road trips. I am very big into 90s music. It's the music I grew up with. Mm-hmm. It's the music I know all the words to. If you were to ask me to name a song that is on the top 100 charts today, I have no clue. If you were to ask me,
right.
If you were to ask me to sing anything by Salt and Peppa, of course I'll do it. Bring it on. If you were to ask me to sing all of Will Smith's Wild Wild West, which I know is in the 2000s, not the 90s, don't come at me, people. I can do it. But to watch the credits scroll by and it's just like, written by Babyface, written by Babyface, written by Babyface. I was just like, wait a minute. Stop the film for a minute. Did he really do all of this? And then I looked up the soundtrack. He did.
Yeah, I love the soundtrack, and I will be listening to it for quite some time into the future. It's cool because it's almost completely Black female artists singing. And yeah, it's all Babyface. And to the point where two different songs played, and I thought it was the same song. I thought it was the same song, and then I realized it was two different songs. But there's just like that sound that he has.
Yeah.
That it works so well. And I mean, this one was up for Grammys. It stayed for a soundtrack. It's surprising. It stayed on the #1 for a long time.
And you got 2 hit songs, including one by Whitney Houston. Like, and when I think about Babyface, I'm like, he was the 90s and the early 2000s. He produced, like, everything. He produced Casey and JoJo. All my life.
I really miss the 90s, and I know that's such an old person thing to say. I'm getting older every day that goes by, but there was something about being in the 90s where you would turn on the radio and you would hear R&B, you would hear Selena, there would be Alanis Morissette, there's rock music playing. It's like you had a little bit of everything going on. Like, all these different genres were represented on the radio. And I don't feel like the same thing happens these days. I just don't.
Yeah, I think that the 90s, honestly, for me, the 90s, I think were, like what 1939 was for film?
For film, yeah.
Like, the entire 90s was for everything else. You had so much expression in everything. Mm-hmm. And it's not just like, we got a little bit creative here and there. We also became more politically aware. We became more, it just gave us an opportunity to grow. And that sounds kind of naive for someone like me who was born at the end, like literally the end of the 80s. But I grew up in the 90s. Like, I have had every iteration of a way to log into a computer. Like, I am, like, and the only other person I feel like you can say that about, besides someone who was born at the end of the 80s into the 90s, is the Queen of England.
What? What?
The Queen of England has lived through every version of a computer. Think about it.
Yeah, but I don't know if she's logging on to Twitter right now.
I don't know. Listen, I don't know what she does in her spare time. She can't be talking about being on a stamp all the time.
You think, like, she's got, like, an Instagram account and she follows the hashtag hats?
Yes. Her Twitter handle's like @CorgiLover15.
No, us going, because I was born in 89, and the other day I was listening to the Top 100 from 1989. It's bananas. It's so good. Like, you've got REM, you have Paula Abdul and Madonna and Prince, and just like this nice variety between pop and college rock. I mean, it's, I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like we're just sounding like old people right now.
We do sound like old people. We could have a whole just episode where we just talk about the 90s in general, because it's so insane to think that at one period of time we went from grunge and heavy metal straight to the bubbliest of pop music. Like, it's like, it's literally like looking at like a gradient of color. We went from like black
Right.
to the brightest of yellow. Like, it's so
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
But back to Macmillan and her books. Did you do any research on Macmillan herself?
Just a little bit. I know. I mean, I think everybody knows. It's really eerie that in Waiting to Exhale, she's got Gloria who
Yeah.
has the guy, and then he ends up being gay, and then in her real life, she ends up marrying this guy who turns out he's gay.
I was gonna say that was when I was looking her up, I was like, oh my goodness, it's so bizarre
Yeah.
to see that, like, that life imitating art.
Did you? This is such a weird memory because when I was a kid, almost every day when I came home from school, unless I had something like play practice after school or work that I had to go into, I would come home, drop my books, and between coming home and starting up my homework, I'd usually have like a snack and talk to my mom or like watch TV, and I'd always end up catching Oprah. And there was an episode where Macmillan was on Oprah and she's talking about that guy going gay. And I don't know, it's such a weird memory, but I remember that one really specifically.
I know exactly what you're talking about because Oprah used to be on at like 4:30.
Yeah.
In Port St. Lucie, Florida, Oprah was on at 4:30, you guys, because it was on right before the 5 o'clock news.
She was.
And I think I know what episode you're talking about because I think that's when Oprah had the "I'm Every Woman" as her theme song. I'm getting real specific on Oprah, y'all. I loved Oprah. But do you remember when she had that as her theme song?
Had you asked me 5 minutes ago what her theme song was, I would have said I don't remember. But actually, I think I do remember that.
Yeah, and it was a really good version of it, too. And I could just remember it going, "I'm every woman." And she's like, yeah, well...
I'm going to be pulling up that opener as soon as we're done here.
And it was a good opener, too. I really...
Yeah. I miss Oprah.
Me too. Like, I don't want to watch The View or anything like that. I want a woman to give me a car.
Yeah. I'll pay the taxes.
Yeah. I don't need Ellen. No one needs Ellen. We need more Oprah.
Well, coming back to Waiting to Exhale.
Yeah.
Is there anything else about the movie that we haven't addressed?
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, it's pretty much, it's a good adaptation of the book,
Mm-hmm.
Granted some of the stuff that they took away. I will say there's not as much emphasis on the careers of any of the women in the movie,
yeah.
which is another sad part about it. I mean, here's a big question for you, Christina. Which did you like more? The book or the movie? Same. I knew you were going to say it too, but I still had to ask.
We still have to ask, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely prefer the book, and I do think that the book is ready for a new adaptation. I do think that TV is a great way to do an adaptation, and I wouldn't say it's something ongoing where they just make up new stuff. I would say maybe 3-5 seasons and then cut it off. And I don't know that ABC is the best place for it just because of the sexual content.
Yeah. Well, is Shonda Rhimes still with ABC? Oh, no, because she's with Netflix now. I would say Netflix,
right.
HBO Max, unless ABC is the main company, but it's going to be on Hulu because, Disney owns ABC, Hulu, Fox, anything that isn't owned by NBC. I could see it moving to be a Hulu, like, original, kind of like they did Little Fires Everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, that would be... I think that, honestly, if ABC still wants to have ownership over it, if the Disney company still wants to have ownership over it, I think making the jump to Hulu will probably be their best bet.
Yeah. Yeah, I would be down for that.
Yeah. I would watch it. I would definitely want to hang out with these women again in another format because it's just fun. It's just really fun to be, to have that like hour and 45 minutes or however long the movie was with women.
It's almost exactly 2 hours. It's like an hour and 59 minutes.
Yeah. Ugh.
It goes by fast though, just like the book.
Yeah, the book, that's the other thing I want to say. The book was such a quick read. So quick. Yeah. For as long as it was, it did not feel long at all.
No. Ugh. There were a few moments that slowed down a bit, but for the most part, it's a very fast, interesting, fun read.
Yeah. I recommend this book to everybody. I recommend the movie just so you can watch Angela Bassett. Oh my God. I'm just going to think about her for a little bit.
No, for real. And with Angela Bassett, the character doesn't describe herself as pretty. She is attractive, but she doesn't think that she is pretty. And it's kind of hard to say whether or not she actually is, and maybe she just has low confidence, because when she gets the haircut, because it's not actually, in the movie, Gloria is the one that cuts her hair, but in the book, it's that other guy does it. And he says something like she needs to learn to love her face, which sort of leans into maybe she's got just like a different sort of look. But then he calls her like beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell exactly how attractive she is. You would think that she is attractive, but it's up in the air. But then you've got Angela Bassett, who's just so gorgeous.
She was born beautiful. Like, I can't.
Yeah. I would just watch, like, I would watch a Bernadine series with her.
Yeah. I would watch that. Like, how she got to where she was, and then her setting a car on fire.
And she could play 20-something. She can play 37 right now.
Oh, yeah, she can. Hands down. She could reprise this role any day of the week. Ugh. I love her so much. Look at what we've done. We've just become an Angela Bassett podcast.
Oh, I did want to say one thing real quick.
Yeah.
Did you notice the food that they were eating? Like, half the time, it was just bowls of vegetables.
Yeah. Even that breakfast that Whitney Houston brings out, it's just like a bunch of like kiwi, I think, because there was a lot of like green in there. It was like, it's just fruit.
Yeah, when I think it's when they go out to the club, it's just like a bowl of vegetables. Yeah. I didn't even see like some hummus or something to dip it in. And then when Whitney Houston is yelling at what's his face, they've got like a bowl of vegetables in front of them.
Well, and here's something, like, when I used to do extra work for TV and film and stuff, and you'd have to do a scene where you have to eat food, I'm 100% certain when they're giving the food to the stars, it's probably still warm, probably still tastes good. When they give it to extras, let me tell you what, that is goopy and disgusting. I would have killed to have just a bowl of fresh veggies in front of me. Like, hand me a cucumber and some Italian dressing, and we'll shoot the scene again. Especially considering that this was Forest Whitaker's first main feature film. I wonder if budget had something to do with no hummus.
Maybe.
But I didn't even realize that it was all just veggie.
I even wondered that with the whole Gloria not going to the hospital thing. Maybe they didn't want to pay for a whole, hospital scene. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah. But this book is Christina and Nikki approved, so.
Yeah, agree.
Oh, goodness. I don't want to leave this book. That's why it's so hard to stop talking. Like, I don't want to leave these women behind, especially with all their wisdom. Like, there's a big difference between being thirsty and being dehydrated.
I can critique anything, okay? Like, I don't think that perfection exists often. So I always find myself going like, oh, this, that. But it's also kind of difficult to just like be satisfied. And although I can poke holes in certain things, like we talked about the fat shaming, that I was just satisfied. Like reading the book satisfied me. Watching the movie, although I don't think it's as good as the book, it was a fun watch. And I enjoyed seeing how close that they did get and how much they tried to be respectful of the book. This whole experience was just nice and satisfying. And that leaves a good taste in my mouth.
Well, I hope we continue to have that good taste with our next pick. Christina, I'm doing a drum roll over here because I'm excited.
Well, we were able to live with these women and their relationship issues. So our next book flips the script, and now we're going to experience life from a white male protagonist's viewpoint.
Yep. We're digging deep. That's a drum roll. Really bad.
So the next one is High Fidelity.
Yay!
Whoop, whoop.
I have read the book more than once. I've seen the movie.
Really?
I love John Cusack, so.
Well, same. Yeah, everybody does.
I'm very pumped for us to talk about this one.
Yeah.
And it's honestly coming off of Waiting to Exhale. It's going to be interesting because I've never read it with the mindset of like being with four women dealing with a relationship first, then jumping into a man wanting to discover all that stuff. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't read it. So I'm just going to stop talking now.
I'm excited.
Yeah. It's going to be good. I'm so pumped.
Yeah, me too.
With that, we leave you all once again. Thanks for listening, you guys. It was great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and thank you to our producer, Jesse.
Yeah, he does the hard work, so we don't have to. And thank you to Christina for being here today.
Me?
Yeah, I think we should start thanking each other. Because you know what? After reading Waiting to Exhale,
Nikki,
I really thank you. Thank you for being a friend.
Well, thank you, Nikki. Thank you for going down all these journeys with me. It's fun every single time. I love hearing your opinions and us talking together. So it's always a delight.
Yeah, all day, every day. And with that, bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye.